As far as the most popular side characters in BoJack Horseman go, you don't need to look much further than Hollyhock, Mannheim, Gruero, Robinson, Silberschlag, Sung, Fonzarelli, McQuack. First introduced visually in Season 3 and the primary focus of Season 4, Hollyhock quickly became a fan favorite character, not only because she's fun, but because her story was surprising, challenging, and provided an entirely new dynamic for BoJack. Her story is ultimately rewarding in some places and very challenging in others, and I think it provides an important lesson to BoJack and the audience. So join me as we explore the complete Hollyhock, Mannheim, Gruero, Robinson, Silberschlag, Sung, Fonzarelli, McQuack timeline, starting right after I talk about today's sponsor, Surfshark. Surfshark VPN is a super cool and helpful tool that can protect your information from data thieves and secure your online life. On top of that, Surfshark can help you unlock tons of content on streaming services like Netflix by logging in through a different country, so if you've run out of cartoons to watch on the US's Netflix library, no sweat, try out Australia or Japan. You can find shows like Rick and Morty, Archer, Close Enough, and more. One subscription gives you access to Surfshark on unlimited devices, so you can load it up on your PC, phone, tablet, Mac, you name it. Plus, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's plenty of time to make sure Surfshark is right for you. I've even got a special offer code for you that will get you 83% off and 3 extra months on top of that for free. Just go to the link in the description of this video and enter the promo code CHELLOS to get this awesome offer. Hollyhock's story actually begins at the Horseman household in the 90s, when Butterscotch Horseman started an extramarital affair with their housekeeper Henrietta Platschke. After years, Butterscotch was still working on his Great American Novel, and Henrietta would talk to him about his writing. The two grew closer, and in December 1999, they conceived a child together. Butterscotch begged his wife to help him get out of the situation, and Beatrice came up with a plan of her own. She fired Henrietta and told her that they would pay for her to go to nursing school if, and only if, she gave up her baby for adoption. Henrietta objected, but Beatrice insisted.
Don't throw away your dreams for this child. Don't let that man poison your life the way he did mine.
Eventually, Henrietta reluctantly agreed. On September 24th, 2000, Hollyhock was born, though she had not been given an actual name yet. After the birth, Henrietta begged to hold her child, but Beatrice would not allow it, taking her away. Not long after this, she was adopted and named Hollyhock. Hollyhock was adopted by 8 gay polyamorous men: Deshaun Mannheim, Steve Mannheim, Jose Guerrero, Cube Robinson III, Otto Zilberschlag, Gregory Sung, Arturo Iceman Fonzarelli, and Quackers McQuack, making her full name Hollyhock, Mannheim, Guerrero, Robinson, Silberschlag, Sung, Fonzarelli, McQuack. Hollyhock grew up in Wichita, Kansas, and had all of the love and support from her fathers that she could ever ask for. And though she loved and appreciated her fathers, she always wanted to meet her mother. She had also been told her entire life that she looked like famous actor BoJack Horseman. After graduating high school a year early in 2016, Hollyhock began to try and contact BoJack Horseman, initially calling the Vim management agency but having no luck. Hollyhock then took a gap year off of school and went to Los Angeles to seek BoJack out herself, arriving in summer 2017. She used clues from BoJack's book, One Trick Pony, to try and track him down, leading her to Mr. Peanut Butter's house during his campaign for governor. While there, Hollyhock saw Todd Chavez, chloroformed him, and then informed him of her entire situation surrounding BoJack. Todd tells her that BoJack has been missing for nearly a year, so she then chloroforms him again and takes him to BoJack's house.
Sorry again, it's just so fun.
When they arrive at BoJack's, they discover that he's actually back in Los Angeles, passed out in his living room. Hollyhock doesn't want BoJack to know what she's doing, so Todd pretends she's his maid.
This is your maid?
Todd then goes to test Hollyhock and BoJack's DNA against each other, while Hollyhock stays to pretend to be a maid. Hollyhock doesn't keep up the charade very well, cleaning nothing while Todd is gone, forcing Todd to do it himself on his return. Todd ends up lying to Diane about the DNA in order to get her to test it for him, saying it belongs to Channing Tatum and his potential daughter. Diane gets the DNA tested, and it comes back a match. Hollyhock has Horseman DNA. Ironically, BoJack sent Hollyhock to Channing Tatum's house to thank him for getting his mail while he was out of town, the very place Diane is going to inform Channing about his own daughter. Todd meets Hollyhock there and lies to her about her relation to BoJack, but when Diane shows up, Todd pretends to be Channing Tatum through the door, and through context clues in the conversation, Hollyhock realizes that she is in fact related to BoJack. Todd later goes back to BoJack's and tells him that Hollyhock is his daughter, though it takes a minute for it to sink in. After Todd leaves, Hollyhock shows up and the pair of them talk about their situation.
Well, let me be the first to tell you. I'm bad news.
You're actually not the first to tell me that.
BoJack says that he'll be a terrible father, and Hollyhock says she doesn't need another father, but she really wants to meet her mother. Unfortunately, BoJack cannot narrow down who he slept with in December 1999, but suspects it might be the president of his fan club, Marcy.
I guess Marcy was kind of a poking holes in the condom type. Real nutter.
Hollyhock then starts to leave, hinting that she doesn't want to stay in her dangerous hostel anymore.
Here I go. Hope there are no murderers out.
Yes, everyone hopes that all the time.
BoJack then tells her she can stay with him while she's in Los Angeles. The next day, the pair start to try and track down Hollyhock's mother, starting with Marcy, who immediately claims that Hollyhock is her child. However, after some of her story doesn't add up, Hollyhock realizes that Marcy is lying. They steal one of Marcy's scrapbooks to try and track down who BoJack may have slept with in late 1999. Next, they visit actress Tilda Madison, who tells them that she did in fact get pregnant by BoJack, but she had an abortion.
Nice. Yeah, you don't want any little BoJacks floating around. Last thing this world needs is more of this garbage.
This obviously upsets Hollyhock greatly, and she lets him know it.
I guess I have thin skin. Must be the half of me that's made of garbage.
Hollyhock gets fed up with BoJack's attitude and makes him pull over, continuing the search on her own. BoJack initially goes home, but then regrets that he isn't helping Hollyhock anymore. He travels around Los Angeles talking to everyone on the potential moms list in order to find Hollyhock again, and when he does, he apologizes to her. Hollyhock expresses her guilt over coming to LA to find her mom in the first place, but BoJack insists that it's okay.
No, it's not, because that means my dads weren't enough for me. And they are!
BoJack then gives Hollyhock advice and tries to comfort her poorly. Hollyhock decides she wants to leave LA, but BoJack isn't ready for her to leave, so he lies to her about knowing who her mother is, claiming that it is
Brown Carla Mercedes Benz Brown.
2 days later, BoJack admits that he lied about Carla Mercedes Benz Brown, and he tells her that he's going to help find her real mother, while also venting about his own mother. Hollyhock then asks if she can meet Beatrice. The pair drive up to an assisted living facility in Santa Barbara called Walnut Springs to see BoJack's mother, Beatrice. When they see her, Beatrice doesn't actually recognize BoJack and instead calls him Henrietta. She does, however, seem to recognize Hollyhock.
Maybe you should just...
Oh, hello. It's you. I can't believe you came back. You look just like him.
BoJack and Hollyhock leave, and in October 2017, they go back to visit her again. This time, while there, they look through old photo albums of Beatrice's life, and Beatrice starts to make some rude comments to Hollyhock about her appearance.
You could be thin, too. Just go easy on the sweets, and when you go somewhere, don't walk. Gallop.
Soon they discover that Beatrice actually recognizes BoJack in his TV show Horsin' Around.
Hush, Henrietta. That's my son on the television.
BoJack comes up with a plan to help Beatrice recognize him by putting on a live episode of Horsin' Around in the nursing home, but for an awful reason.
And when her eyes spark with recognition, I'm gonna sit down next to her, I'm gonna squeeze her hand and get real close and say, "Fuck you, Mom."
The pair of them put on the live Horsin' Around episode for Beatrice, but unfortunately it frightens and confuses her. In her confusion, she shoves over another resident of the facility and is then kicked out of Walnut Springs, moving in with BoJack and Hollyhock. Shortly after Beatrice moves in, BoJack starts leaving the house more frequently and for longer periods of time. This starts to eat away at Hollyhock, who thinks that he's avoiding her. Beatrice soon starts to show a bit of livelihood, cooking food, making coffee for Hollyhock, and caring for a baby doll as though it's a real child. BoJack's jealous response to this is to throw the baby doll off of the balcony. BoJack later returns with the doll as Hollyhock is sitting on the deck, sad and alone. They talk and she asks him why he doesn't like spending time with her, wondering if she's the problem.
I know you didn't ask for this dorky 17-year-old to just show up at your door.
BoJack reassures Hollyhock that he is the problem, not her. She then asks if those voices in your head that tell you that you're garbage ever go away, and BoJack tells her that they do. After this, Hollyhock starts to get noticeably skinnier. Soon, BoJack takes a role on a show called Felicity Huffman's Booty Academy Los Angeles, and he brings Hollyhock with him to set. While there, Hollyhock meets an intern named Miles, and the two hit it off. Hollyhock doesn't return to BoJack's until the next day, having spent the night with Miles. BoJack tells her that she'll never hear from Miles again, but she immediately gets a text from him. Hollyhock then leaves to go hang out with Miles without having breakfast, instead opting for the coffee that Beatrice made her. When Hollyhock arrives home that night, BoJack questions where she's been and also questions Miles' intentions, implying that Hollyhock isn't attractive enough for Miles to be interested in her. He says that LA is a superficial town and she should be careful. Hollyhock angrily leaves again. Later on the set of FHBALA, Miles catches up with BoJack and tells him that if he doesn't want him dating Hollyhock, they can work out a deal, and tries to give him his own screenplay.
So if you have like an agent or a manager you could give it to, that would be awesome.
and I would never talk to Hollyhock again.
BoJack arrives home. Hollyhock is drinking coffee and flipping through TV channels at an alarmingly quick speed. She's also sorted all of the change in the house into little piles on the table in alphabetical order by year. She asks BoJack about Miles, and he tells her he was just jealous.
He hasn't texted me all day today. I've been trying to distract myself.
BoJack then gives Hollyhock some of the best advice he's ever given anyone.
Hollyhock, you are an amazing woman, and you should never settle for someone who only loves the idea of you.
BoJack asks her if she wants to get some ice cream, and she says she's not hungry and decides to keep flipping channels. Not long after this, Hollyhock, BoJack, Beatrice, and Tina are playing Uno when Hollyhock starts to get lightheaded. She retreats to the bathroom and gets a text from Papa Otto asking how she's doing. She takes a selfie and responds, "Lovin' that Cali lifestyle," right as she faints in the bathroom. Hollyhock is taken to the hospital. At the hospital, BoJack tries desperately to see Hollyhock, but they won't let him in. He overhears a group of men talking about Hollyhock, which turns out to be her 8 gay polyamorous dads. They angrily introduce themselves and reveal to BoJack that Hollyhock overdosed on amphetamines and tell him that he can never see her again. BoJack returns home and has a panic attack about Hollyhock. Soon he realizes the true nature of the overdose, though, that Beatrice had been spiking Hollyhock's coffee with Chub B Gone, a weight loss amphetamine. After taking Beatrice to a new nursing home, BoJack tries to contact Hollyhock and tell her dads that it wasn't her fault, that it was Beatrice, but they hang up on him. In Beatrice's leftover mail, BoJack discovers a letter from Henrietta Platschke via the adoption agency. She was trying to contact her long-lost daughter all along. This is when BoJack realizes the truth. He isn't Hollyhock's father. He is her half-brother. He flies to Wichita and goes to her house and tries to reason with her 8 fathers. BoJack says that he understands if he can't see Hollyhock again, but he needs her to know the truth about her real father and who her mother actually is. They agree to tell her, but make him leave. When Hollyhock learns about Henrietta, she reaches out and the two get to know each other. Hollyhock then decides to fly to Minneapolis to visit her. While at the airport, she calls BoJack and thanks him for telling her fathers about her mother. They have a nice conversation, and when BoJack starts to act too fatherly, Hollyhock cuts him off.
I never needed you to be a dad. I'm going to be fine, but I've never had a brother.
By September 2018, Hollyhock is attending Wesleyan University in Connecticut. She maintains a relationship with BoJack, and they talk on the phone every Sunday afternoon, though occasionally BoJack will call at an odd hour of the night. In November 2018, Hollyhock takes a detour on her way home to Kansas so she can visit BoJack in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, when they arrive at BoJack's house, Hollyhock has a panic attack from her PTSD surrounding the overdose. She then dumps all of BoJack's pain medication down the drain, which he was using for his injured back. They try to get more of the drugs from Dr. Who, but he claims that he stopped selling drugs illegally after Sarah Lynn died. So then they go to Gina Cazador's house, even though she and BoJack had broken up. BoJack thinks he left some of his meds at her house, and he makes Hollyhock sneak into the house to find them while he distracts Gina, but Hollyhock grabs the wrong pills. They then try to buy drugs from a drug dealer who won't sell to BoJack because he's dressed like Filbert, his TV character who happens to be a cop. A real cop arrives undercover to try and arrest the dealer, but Hollyhock and BoJack run away. As they escape, BoJack hoists Hollyhock over a fence, even though he claimed his back was in horrible pain, so Hollyhock calls him out and they fight about it. He then takes her to the airport and apologizes to her, admitting that he might not need the pills. Hollyhock makes him promise not to take drugs unless he needs them, and before she leaves, she says,
I love you.
BoJack does not respond. In late 2019, Hollyhock gets a surprise visit from BoJack, who has just left rehab. Hollyhock invites him to a concert with her friend Tawny and reveals that they are in a fight because of the canceled drama classes at Wesleyan. They have a nice time at the concert before BoJack goes back to LA, but BoJack is then hired to be the new drama professor at Wesleyan. Not long after this, Hollyhock and Tawny go on a trip to New York City to see Tawny's boyfriend. They explore the city and go to the Empire State Building. Hollyhock expresses concern over drinking at a party they're planning to go to later that night. When they arrive at the party, Hollyhock is left alone, and after opening a beer, she starts to have a panic attack. Fortunately, a guy named Peter recognizes this and helps Hollyhock by having her list the things she sees. This grounds her, she calms down, and the pair retreat to the balcony to chat. Peter opens up to Hollyhock about why he didn't drink through most of college, revealing a strange story about a man who stayed with his friend's family and took his friend to prom, even though he was 50 years old. They all went to prom together, and his girlfriend got alcohol poisoning after the man provided them the alcohol. He then tells her that the man is actually kind of famous.
Who is he?
Peter reveals to Hollyhock that the man in the story was her brother, BoJack Horseman. In early 2020, BoJack officially joins the Wesleyan staff as the drama professor, now working at the same school Hollyhock attends. Due to the information she learned, Hollyhock starts to distance herself from BoJack. During the semester, Hollyhock joins the rugby team. BoJack attends all of her games. BoJack notices how distant Hollyhock has been, and he asks her to go to his end of the semester performance for his drama class. She agrees to go. However, when the performance comes, Hollyhock is nowhere to be found. In the middle of the performance, BoJack goes to Hollyhock's dorm to confront her. She immediately realizes her mistake, but is more concerned about Tawny.
Your showcase! Tawny's gonna be so pissed.
Hollyhock apologizes, and BoJack calls her out for avoiding him all semester. She unloads some of her own frustrations about him joining the Wesleyan staff.
You could have asked me, by the way.
BoJack apologizes for not asking her and offers to leave the following semester. Hollyhock says Tawny told her that he's a really good teacher, and that even though she and Tawny are in a fight, she still loves her.
Are we in a fight?
Yeah, but... yeah.
BoJack goes back to his performance. Not long after the semester ends, new information about BoJack's part in Sarah Lynn's death comes to light, and he has 2 separate TV interviews with Biscuits Braxby about his behavior. The first makes him look empathetic, while the second makes him look predatory. A few months after these interviews, Hollyhock writes and sends BoJack a letter. In it, she reveals that she isn't comfortable being in his life anymore, and cuts him out of it. She changes her number so that he can't contact her anymore. And that, sadly, is the complete Hollyhock timeline. Hollyhock is such a great character, and the way her story ends in the series is one of the hardest lessons from a character perspective and a narrative perspective. Hollyhock does what is best for herself and makes an incredibly hard decision. And unfortunately, like many things in life, BoJack and we as an audience are not afforded closure in this situation. And I think blaming Hollyhock or holding this decision against her is pretty unfair. In her time with BoJack, she was literally drugged and overdosed. She now has ongoing panic attack problems, and through what she learned about BoJack's relationship with young women, it's completely reasonable that she was scared to be a part of his life. I hope that one day they reconnect, but Hollyhock doesn't owe BoJack anything, and I really hate the way that people criticize her for that decision. She was put through the ringer in her time with BoJack. My dream is that one day we get a follow-up to BoJack from Hollyhock's perspective, maybe a miniseries where we see her life after the events of BoJack, and potentially how they could reconnect. Hey, a man can dream. Folks, thanks for tuning into another massive BoJack timeline. If you like this one, make sure to check out the other 7 I've released so far, and of course, stay tuned for more. I think I've only got one more to do. BoJack himself.
Johnny!